couple of years back, I ventured out to a new state for my graduate studies. Being a bit of an introvert and slow to warm up to new people, I found solace in exploring the surroundings during my free time. Occasionally, I'd drive a few hours north to spend time with my fiancée. But one long weekend, I decided to embark on a solo road trip to the south coast of Oregon. I planned for an overnight backpacking trip on a trail that had always been on my wish list. To provide some context about myself, I'm a young woman of a slight build, nothing intimidating. I was aware of my vulnerability when venturing out alone, but given my experience in the backcountry and numerous incident-free hikes until then, I felt confident. It's important to note that all my previous experiences with people in the backcountry had been positive. On a crisp morning, I set off early to reach the trailhead by dawn. As I got my belongings ready for the hike, excitement mingled with a hint of unease. The trail was situated on national forest land, following the course of a stunning river. It was a popular spot for rafters and hikers alike, which initially put my mind at ease. However, this time, something felt off, making me a bit physically uneasy. I attributed it to the normal anxieties of being in a new and unfamiliar place, brushing it off. The trail promised to be a beautiful journey, and I planned to camp by the river, about a mile into the hike. In the first few miles, I encountered a few groups of hikers heading in the opposite direction, which added to the comforting atmosphere. The sun cast a golden hue over the trail, and every so often, I glimpsed the brilliant blue of the river through the trees. Birds serenaded me with their chirping, and slowly, my unease began to dissipate. My main concern shifted to avoiding the patches of poison oak that encroached on the trail. As I continued my hike, I noticed a man standing about 10 meters ahead, seemingly paused. He was looking directly in my direction, an intensity in his gaze that sent shivers down my spine. As I approached, his focus on me felt unnerving. It was unusual for someone to fixate on another person like that. He made me increasingly uncomfortable. Trying to put my unease to rest, I thought he might not want to engage, so I mentally prepared to pass him. As I neared, he swiftly moved to the side of the trail and pretended to tie his shoe. This abrupt action confirmed my suspicion that he didn't want to engage in a conversation, and oddly enough, I was relieved. I greeted him politely as I passed by, and he, in an act, seemed surprised by my presence, claiming I'd snuck up on him and that he hadn't seen me. This was puzzling because it was evident he had noticed me. However, not wanting to escalate the situation, I simply apologized for startling him, to which he responded, initiating an awkward but polite conversation. "Where are you hiking today?" He seemed to be in his 60s, of average build, wearing a sweaty gray tank top with curly shoulder-length gray hair and rosy cheeks. As we crossed paths, he looked at me in a way that made me uncomfortable. I thanked him for the tip about the busy camp and tried to politely end the conversation. However, he continued with intrusive questions about where I was from, who I was hiking with, and details about my family and fiancé. Nervously, I answered truthfully, revealing that I was alone and my loved ones were far away. As the conversation went on, I realized these were not the questions of a well-intentioned person. Panic started to creep in and I regretted my honesty. Desperate to shift the focus away from me, I started asking him about himself. He claimed to be a retired fisherman from a nearby town who enjoyed hiking trails along the south coast. After about 15 minutes of conversation, I excused myself, feeling the need to leave. He reminded me to set up camp at an alternative spot he recommended, and unsettlingly said, "I'll be seeing you soon." As I continued down the trail, my legs felt weak and fear washed over me. I didn't feel safe, especially after passing another group. My instincts told me not to camp in designated spots, suspecting the man might not be headed back to the trailhead. I chose a hidden vantage point off the trail to keep an eye on him. Hiding among the oak trees, I anxiously watched the trail, worrying about being discovered. After about 10 minutes, I saw him swiftly hiking back in my direction. Fear and uncertainty overwhelmed me, but I decided to wait for another group heading towards the trailhead, intending to follow them at a safe distance. It took about 15 more minutes for another group to pass by. Gathering my courage, I made my way down the hillside, carefully following them. When I reached my car, I didn't waste time changing. I drove straight home, grateful that the only scars from that trip were the rashes from the poison oak. The encounter left me shaken, but I was relieved to be safely on my way.